And I think it's so easy to just get stuck in our heads and to ruminate and to stay self-criticizing, self-condemning places. And then we start criticizing others. And I mean, it's the Teddy Roosevelt, man in the arena. We stay.
Welcome to the Hey Brother podcast, where Catholic men share about real struggles. I'm Nick Clune, your host, a Catholic psych mentor and the founder of Craft It For More, a mentorship practice dedicated to helping men live more radically free lives. Each week, I sit down with a man to hear his story about how brotherhood has shaped him, the struggles he's facing, and where he wants to grow. In addition to our weekly interviews, I share conversations with my brother Mitch. Subscribe and follow so we can walk this journey together. We want your help to build a stronger, authentic Catholic brotherhood. Welcome back to another episode of the Hey Brother podcast. I'm joined this episode by Nick Red, but I'm doing a little intro here because my audio quality is really bad. I think my headphones connected to the recording instead of my good mic, and I just wanted to preface that Nick says a lot of awesome things, and I don't want you clicking off this video because of my mic poor quality. So bear with it for a minute. He does most of the talking, and enjoy. God bless. Welcome back to another episode of the Hey Brother podcast. Today I'm being joined by Nick Red, former Net missionary, also worked for Net for a little bit, right? And then SPO, and now working for the Freedom Group, husband, father of 3 kids. Is that right?
That's right, 3
Yes.
and counting. We pumped out our first of 4 boys about a year and a half ago, so we're ready for the more of the XYs to keep coming.
There we go. That's awesome. Well, Nick, it's great to have you here on this podcast. Can you talk to me a little bit about what you're passionate about right now, and then we'll get into your story a little bit?
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for having me, Nick. Yeah, what I'll say this is just what am I passionate about, more in line with where am I at. So day 2, full-time, the Freedom Group. I'm excited about that.
There we go.
So to that end, I am passionate currently trying to live it out, but for guys to be honest about what they want and to go after it. I remember I was reflecting on this actually this morning. Years ago, I had a mentor who actually led our men's group. He was an older guy, led a men's group I was in. And I was just beating around the bush about, people think I should do this, or I don't know, other guy thinks I should be doing this with my life. And finally, he's like, Nick, what do you want? As we were talking about before we pressed record, like very disagreeable. He would interject and just step on toes. He didn't mind it all. He didn't care. He's like, I don't care if you like me. He's like, what do you want? He goes, you've been talking a lot about what others want and what you think you should want, but I want to know what Nick Red wants. And I couldn't answer it. And finally, he's like, Nick, here's your assignment. I want you to go home, enable my camera. All right, we're back. He says, I want you to go home and write down, just say, what do I want? And just start writing. Don't censor yourself. Yeah. Don't think about what you should want. And especially in the church, we get these trappings of like, well, is it God's will? Is it not God's will? Like, does he want me to do it? Is this just a selfish desire? And he just gave me permission to just dream and express desire. He's like, Nick, if you want to leave your faith, write it down. If you want to start dating, write it down. Whatever you want, write it down. We'll clean up the mess later. Just be honest. And that permission that he granted me, there's been a few people in my life who've been permission granting people, and I think it's really important. We need people in our corner that are going to, in our inner circle, that are going to go toe to toe with us and say no and challenge us and push us and see how strong we are in our resolve, because we got to get sharpened, but we also need guys who are going to give us permission to go after stuff. And so I think just as I'm stepping out, getting into the arena, stepping out of the boat, whichever metaphor you want to use, I am passionate about guys expressing honest desire, going after that, inviting people into that, and not, I just know in my own life I can hyper discern. I can hyper focus on discerning. Yeah. And I don't know who it was. I heard it once. I think it was a bishop. He might have said, ever since discernment has become popular, we've ceased to make decisions.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So,
yeah, it's almost like we become afraid of that desire, right? We're afraid to let our desire come forth and actually be a tool in discernment. And I feel like it's a lot of like men tend to shy away from that because it's like, is this the right thing? And we come back to that, and like what you're saying, hyperfixate on, is this
Yeah.
the right thing? Is it the right thing? You can hear from a lot of great theologians, right? Like to discipline the passions, and then they divorce that from desire, and like it gets confusing. I don't know. I've had a couple of guys on the podcast where
Right.
we hit that tension point where it's almost as men we're told that our desire is bad. Like you just have to fight against the desire to be holy. And I want you to talk more about what you mean, because I know you're saying you want to fight against that maybe a little bit, like like to lean into the desire. But with Freedom Group, you're full time with that. Joe was on the podcast like a few months ago, and
Yep.
he was talking about the Freedom Group. I'm excited to have you on as like the other partner in that endeavor of the Freedom Group, making that happen and come to life. And I want you to say more on that, maybe at the end of the podcast, just invite you guys to talk about what you're doing with the Freedom Group and where they can learn more about you and that mission and Joe and the good work you're doing there. A lot of it is
Sweet.
helping guys overcome addiction, right? Porn addiction, sexual addiction,
Quit
the whole
playing
nine
with your
yards.
dang dinghy. You know?
Yeah.
If only it were that simple.
Right,
Yeah.
right. If you could hear those words and just be done. But like,
Totally.
take me
Yeah.
into your story and like why was it that like what led to this point where you're like, yeah, like I need to actually like lean into this desire. Like, I'm sure there's a huge amount of backstory that leads into
Yeah.
that moment from a couple of years ago.
Yep. Yep. So the desire to like work with men and get them free.
Does that work with men or just like the giving you the freedom to like lean into your passions? I mean, there's maybe obviously maybe like a story of faith in there somewhere that led into being hyper fixated on discernment. But like, what's the Nick Red story look like?
Sure. Yeah, I can kind of nutshell who is Nick Red. So I resonate with this guy by the name of Gerald May, Christian psychiatrist, psychologist, therapist. He's written many books, but one of the books he wrote is called Addiction and Grace. Addiction and Grace. It's really good. It takes like a neuroscience background angle on it and then a spiritual angle on it. Really good stuff. And in the book, basically, his main point is to be alive is to be addicted. And to be addicted is to be in need of God's grace. And I resonated with a lot in the book. I do not resonate with, and this might be a hot take, I do not resonate with the thought that this idea that addiction is a disease. There's the most popular article on it, peer-reviewed article, I don't know when it came out, but addiction is a disease and why it matters. There's a whole backstory to it. We don't need to get down it, but it actually opened up opportunities for insurance to get involved in it. But I guess the one helpful thing about addiction being a disease is if it's a disease, there's no like, they can kind of lift shame off me. But I believe also it's like, you can catch disease. And yes, there's certainly like generational realities. And was I born an alcoholic? I don't drink alcohol.
No.
But was I born it? Was I born into that? Or is there a deeper reality where I carry a lot of pain? So I was born into a family, a son of a self-proclaimed dry alcoholic. He was a son of an alcoholic. His siblings were alcohol and drug abusers. They died early in his life. My dad has done a great job with where he came from. I never met my grandpa Fred Red. What a name, Fred Red. I love it. I never met him, but my dad would always say, spoke this sentence over us. He goes, Reds are alcoholics. Whoa. That's, words are powerful. And especially if you're a young kid, impressionable, under the authority of somebody else who would carry a lot of emotion when they spoke from anger. He was kind of and I love my dad. So I doubt my dad is going to be listening to this, but Dad, if you do, I love you. He carried a lot of anger, a rage-aholic, you could say. And I don't want to, we throw out these labels that can kind of be like identity statements. Like alcoholic is an identity statement. Rage-aholic is an identity statement. But somebody that struggles with alcohol or somebody that struggles with anger or rage, I realized growing up that it wasn't about my own stuff, but it was his own stuff that he was carrying, right? And so I was born into that world, love my family, but I say that I'm a sensitive man. I'm spiritually sensitive. Have always
Okay.
had a sensitivity to the spiritual world, to the invisible
Interesting.
realm. I didn't just say my
When
prayers. I
did you
was raised,
first notice that? When did you
oh,
first notice that? Like
early,
this, super.
early. I
Yeah.
remember, like like after mass, like receiving communion, and I remember actually going somewhere within me and praying. And I'm an external processor. I don't know what I'm thinking till I start talking. And so me and you are
Yeah.
going to discover what I'm thinking at the same time, right? And so I would often pray my prayers
Yeah.
quietly out loud. I have memories of me staying up at night and praying the Our Father, but not just saying the Our Father, but saying, Father, you're in heaven. Like, and I would pray, and I didn't have this language at the time, but I remember being blown away by this reality that I believed that I was accessing another dimension. Like somehow I'm tapping into this invisible realm that I have access to. Blew my freaking mind at a young age. And I
Yeah.
didn't have that language for it at the time, but I just remember being struck by an awareness and that came back later in my life to kind of bite me, this openness, this of the awareness of the spiritual world, but or just even the darkness of it too, the good and the
Yeah.
bad. So emotionally sensitive. I feel a lot. I feel a lot. Like I'm an empath. And I feel people's pain, so I carry a lot of stuff. So being a feeler, I felt a lot of pain too growing up. So I learned early on how to numb myself. So for me, porn and masturbation came into my life probably freshman year of high school. Honestly, a little later than the average person. First time I saw porn was probably 10. It was this like Pamela and Tommy Lee VHS that a buddy had. I'm dating myself a little bit here. And I walked in the room, I saw it, and I kind of walked out. I'm like, that was the first time. I remember the memory, but I just walked out like that. That's the first time I saw it. But it wasn't until like I was 14. A lot of guys are getting exposed way earlier, prepubescent, which is in its own way traumatic, right? Comes with another whole bag of stuff. But I learned, 16 years old, I started drinking. 16 years old, I started smoking pot. I just started numbing. And the reality is that stuff that worked. We tell guys in the Freedom Group, like, porn isn't your problem. It's the solution to your problem. Alcohol wasn't my problem. Porn, pot wasn't my problem. It was my self-medicating solution to my problem, and it worked. I was raised in the church, though. I was raised in an incredible organization, Opus Dei. I'll share. Super grateful for being raised in Opus Dei. I was formed really well, and so I knew. I knew I wasn't supposed to be doing what I was doing, and so me and my 6-7 buddies were going to confession every single Saturday, 4:00. We at St. Mary's. We first in line, go to confession, confess our mortal sins, hop over to Saints Peter and Paul, receive the Eucharist in the, quote, state of grace, go to Little Caesars, have my brother get me some Keystone Ices, and we'd get deked, and we'd just be out of the state of grace all week. And we were just just lost. And so I'm just like checking off the boxes, and so I lived that way. I lasted 2 years at St. Louis University. I got kicked out. That's a whole other story. After 5 years of college in the summer of 2009, I hit a rock bottom. I was living back home with my parents, I had to go to mass every Sunday with my mom, but again, formed really well in the faith growing up. I knew I wasn't supposed to receive communion, so I didn't. I didn't go to confession, but I just would go up there. I'd go to mass. I was forced to go to mass every Sunday. I didn't go my first Sunday back home. My dad worked every Sunday as a nurse still, and he comes home that night, and I will censor myself for the podcast, but he says, "You get the out of the house right now, or you go to mass every Sunday with your mother." I mean, he ripped into me. I was like, "Yes, sir." So I went to mass every Sunday. There's a young priest who reached out to me, and he says, "Nicholas, get together sometime." And long story short, it's a late night, 5:30, drive home from the casino. Shouldn't have been driving. Summer of 2009, lost a lot of money on the casino after I was bartending, and I get home. My dad's about to walk out of the house. So I see him. I step off to the side of the house before I go in, and I go up and lay down in my bed, and I wake up hour and a half, 2 hours later, around 7:30, 8 a.m., and this is wild. Do you know what like sleep paralysis is? You ever heard about that or felt that, experienced
Sure.
that? You
Where
ever
the body
experienced it?
like just freezes. I've
Dude,
not
it's wild.
experienced it, but I've heard of it. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
That's what you.
Oh, dude, I don't know what was physical, what was spiritual, but it felt demonic. Anybody who's experienced it, they're like, this is terrifying. I'm awake.
Yeah.
I can't talk. My body can't move. That's how I felt. And I'm not trying to over spiritualize it, but I was like, this is, I felt trapped. And I don't remember if it was out loud or in my heart, but I said, Jesus, help me. It was the first sincere prayer in years. And I sat up and put my feet off the side of the bed. And I started like breathing and thinking like, what is going on? Long story short, I talked to a local priest, Father Sean, and went down and started talking to him. I don't need to dive into the whole story, but ultimately, I don't know what I'm doing down there. I'm like, I don't know what I'm here to talk to you about, Father. And I started telling him stuff. And then eventually he turns that into a confession and throws a little stole on his neck. And I told him stuff I'd never told another living soul. And I remember the moment I poured it all out. I'm the ugly cries and just fully out there, just snot coming out, and I'm bawling and just getting stuff out. And I will not forget the words that he said to me. He says, he called me Brother Nick. Brother Nick. He says, welcome home. And I know what he probably meant, reflecting on that. He probably meant the church. Welcome home. Welcome back to the church. But what I felt like for the first time in my life, I felt at home with myself. Man, this is the book, The Return of the Prodigal Son by Henry Nouwen. Have you read it?
No.
Really good book. Highly recommended. He says, for a long time, I considered low self-esteem to be some kind of virtue. He says, I've been warned so often against pride that I used to think it was a good thing to deprecate myself. But then he says, but now I realize that the real sin is to deny my original goodness, to deny God's first love for me. Because without claiming that goodness, his first love for me, I lose track of my true self, and I go in search of the wrong things with the wrong people for what can only be found in my Father's house. And I read that, I resonate with low self-esteem. I'm a piece of shit. I have all this shame. I identify with my sin. I identify with my brokenness. But when I got it all out and I was met with the presence of another person and Father Sean, he says, welcome home. I just I felt back because I was never okay with offering to myself to people. So I would drink, I would numb. I mean, I was first couple of years of college, I was drinking most days, it was bad.
Yeah.
And so I don't drink anymore, but so.
Were you aware of that, at all? When you were numbing with these things, were you cognitively thinking about it, or were you just I just want to live life? Any sort of awareness of the pain? Because I feel like a lot of guys listening to this right now could probably resonate to being in really trapped or shitty places of life, and they could hear what you're saying on these things. But I'm just curious where the awareness it was for you in that journey. Was it just kind of this vague, I know something's running to catch me and I don't want it to catch up, or was it something that you could see for what it was and you're I'm choosing this intentionally?
Yeah. I don't think I had much awareness at all. I think the only awareness I had is what I was doing was wrong. Kind of moral compass, sin management, behavior modification, do this, don't do that. I remember when I first came in touch or was exposed to the concept of father wound by reading John Eldridge's book, Wild at Heart. I'm like, father wound? I don't have a father wound. And looking back now, that's hilarious. We all have a father wound. I've got kids and I'm not gonna be a perfect father. Yeah. I just remember, so the whole idea of wounding and all this stuff of what's undergirding all of our self-medicating coping mechanisms. No, I don't think I was aware at all, other than the fact that I knew what I was doing wasn't right. But I was really good at numbing that voice and repressing that and shutting that down. Just.
But even that was probably feeding into that narrative, I'm a shitty person, and so I'm just gonna keep doing these bad things because it's who I am. I don't know any different. Yeah, that's a really vicious cycle to be in. It was just I'm just gonna keep numbing, and then God broke through in a pretty powerful way. It sounds
Then I was
like.
perfect, and I haven't sinned since. No, man,
Yeah.
it was rough. The next day, I woke up in a waitress's bed. That night, I bartended.
Oh
The
wow.
next day, I
Dang.
woke up. This is real. I'm like, I mean,
Yeah.
addiction is real. And like, if we just keep standing back up and keep living in the light and don't self-condemn and don't judge harshly ourselves, but are aware and curious and start living honestly. The next day, I woke up in a waitress's bed. Father Sean calls me on my phone. And I remember it, looking at it, and it said Father Sean. I don't know why I had his name in there twice, but Father Sean. And I look, and I'm covered in shame. I ignore it, and I go drink all day. I numb it.
Yeah.
The next day he calls me, and by the grace of God, I answered it. And he says, Brother Nick, you get that shame out of your voice and you run to confession. And so I was like, so I say that last year of college, Father Sean loved the hell out of me. I mean, he just met me.
Wow.
And I remember one time saying, Father Sean, next time I go to confession, I'm not going to have a mortal sin. And he's like, all right, I'm not worried about that. I'm not,
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Man. Man, that's wild. So you had this moment with the Lord and like came to like see like, oh man, I need to do something differently, but still
Yep.
stuck in this place of like the habits, the patterns.
Yep.
And Father Sean just loving on you the whole time is what started to slowly switch that. And then like
Yep.
then what?
And it started shifting around, like, we talked earlier about like what do I want, but I never had asked. And it is a both and. It's not just what I want, but he does place desires in our hearts. I think as like a homing device to draw us to him. He places desires in me to draw me out of myself to him. I do believe that, but our true desires are from him. But it's also like, God, what do you want? I never had asked that question. Call on my life. I've never really thought about that. And so Father Sean told me about net ministries, which we've both done. And my first thought was like, what? I want to run away. I want to go to Africa. I want to evangelize. What does that even freaking mean?
Yeah.
So that he first that's the power of just inviting, asking questions, throwing out some seeds. You never know what's going to happen, and so grateful for him just asking the question. I got an application. It was back then. It was physical applications. It sat on my desk. I didn't look at it. I was like in the fall, late summer, so early on in my conversion, and then in the spring, somebody reached out to me, and so served with Nat. Did 3 years with Nat. I entered into religious life. I was technically Brother Nick for 6 days. Come on, baby.
6 days, nice.
That's right, man. Six
That's
whole
awesome.
days. 6 whole days. How many have you done?
Yeah, 6 less.
That's right.
What order was it? Do you mind sharing that, or like?
I probably
community?
shouldn't.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah. It's got me curious. That's awesome. So
Yeah.
religious life for a minute, and then.
Yeah, and then
I know
SBO,
SBO
basically SBO 12.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been with SBO for about 12 years. Yeah, and it just in the whole process, I'm just so grateful for the call, because wherever God is calling, and this is for somebody listening, this is for all of us, wherever God's calling you, I believe where he's calling you is primarily going to be the place where he's going to be able to claim more territory back in your life. I remember it was like day 3 of my time with Net. Mark Burcham said, and I'll never forget this. He says, Nick, you're a talented guy. Clearly, God's going to do a lot of work through you this year. But you need to know that God is infinitely more interested in what he wants to do to you, to transform you, than what he wants to do through you. But it's in the going, it's in the serving, it's in the giving of self that he's able to claim more territory back in my life. So it's a both and sort of thing. So like, I'm never ready. He's all about premature deployment. I'm never ready. I was never going to be ready to serve full-time in ministry, but it's in the going. He takes broken vessels and it's like, I'm going to fill you with my power and go. And in the going, he heals, he claims back territory. He gets us out of ourselves, out of our comfort zone, out of our self-protection, out of our preserving ways of living and coping and controlling our lives. It's in the giving that he's able to set us more free. So I'm just so freaking grateful for that. And I'm grateful that there's always more and that I'm never done.
Yeah.
There's not an end of the race until I meet him face to face. But it just so convicted. And so I'm grateful for who I've become. I would not be the husband I am, the father I am, without some key people along the way, mentors, brothers, sisters that have challenged me to step up and to lead and to lay down my life in ways that I think men typically might not. I think our default isn't necessarily to serve. This is an interesting random hot take, but a friend of a female friend of mine said, she was on a retreat and one of the priests said, was sharing why he thinks there should just be altar boys, not girls on the altar. And he says, and here's the reason why. He says, sisters, nobody needed to teach you to serve. Like, your natural default femininity is to just serve and to step up and volunteer and serve. Boys need to be forced to do that, to be put in positions. Like, I will rise to the level of the bar that is set, which is why I love the Fulton Sheen quote about basically men rise to the level of womanhood. Like, whatever dignity and understanding of who she is, when she like says, here's who I am, men will rise to that bar. And so why am I even saying that right now? I don't even know, other than just a hot take that I wanted to share, that I agree that there should only be altar boys. But because I need to be forced to serve. Like, if I'm going to lead, I need to be the one, like, my whole life, if it wasn't for God intervening through some powerful, people in some powerful ways, my life would be marked by abdicating responsibility. The sin of Adam, who just fills my heart, and I'm just like, well, I'll let, it's interesting. We say Eve's the one. Well, Paul says all sin came through Adam. What does that mean? Adam was just standing there, passive. Like, that still flows into my heart. And I need to continue to crucify that part of my flesh and serve and force myself in these places to serve. I'm just preaching right now. I'm sorry. I don't even know what I'm talking about. I'm preaching to myself, though, because I need it. I need more of it.
We all do, because it's like, it's such a masculine problem, like, to abdicate responsibility. And like, it's at the core of man's heart, masculine genius of like, even like what you're saying, like being on net, serving, and like then serving with SPO. Like, God is forming us because we are choosing to pour ourselves out. Like, there's something so inherently masculine about that, where we really can't actually start to begin to know who we are until we choose to start to like give ourselves. It's like kind of a paradoxical relationship we have with our masculinity. And we see that in today's world. And even like guys who are listening to this right now, like such a severe lack of purpose, right, in men's lives. Like, people and they see it, but they don't know what to do about it. Like, I see it for myself at times. When I start to lack purpose, and what do? I race off to watch a YouTube video, and I'm like, what am I doing? Like I don't. This isn't going to fill like the sense of purpose I need. I mean, there's such thing as good leisure, but like, let's not expose like look at how is that actually encouraging me to feel like purpose in my life. Am I running from a feeling of purposelessness, or am I actually choosing like leisure in this moment? Because there's a big difference there, and a lot of guys tend to fall in that. I'm just trying to avoid, right, this purposelessness, this feeling that I don't want to feel because I'm not comfortable with it. So I think what you're saying can resonate with a lot of men's hearts.
Right.
And kind of wrap things up is, what would you want to encourage guys with who are listening to this right now? Like, what one thing would you encourage other Catholic men who are listening to this podcast? And then I want to give you time to talk about the Freedom Group just a little bit here at the end.
Yeah. Any encouragement. Is that right?
Any encouragement.
Yeah.
That's the prompt.
Yeah. I'll roll with this. Tony Robbins. He says,
that feels left field.
Hey, I respect the muscle, man. I don't agree with everything, but he says if you stay in your head, you're dead. And I think And this isn't an earning salvation sort of statement or a meriting salvation or anything, but at the end of the day, I believe a man will be judged by his actions, by his deeds, by what he does, by what he does or what he fails to do. And I think it's so easy to just get stuck in our heads and to ruminate and to stay self-criticizing, self-condemning places. And then we start criticizing others. And I mean, it's the Teddy Roosevelt, man in the arena. We stay, if you notice the critical voice, I believe in my own life, I know for sure it's the case. But every time I start noticing a consistent kind of complaining or criticizing kind of theme play out where I'm like criticizing others, especially others, but even myself, it's simply because I'm not getting in the arena. I'm not, and again, following like a purpose. I'm not getting out there. And again, this isn't like a white knuckling it, but it's simply am I, willing to, just willing to show up. And again, and this is the Hey Brother podcast, man. It's like, I couldn't do it without others. I couldn't do it without people encouraging me, people going toe to toe and challenging me, people supporting me, people calling me on, people saying, Nick, what do you want? Like, get out of your head, get into your heart and start living with passion and with purpose. Live into your calling, we don't just need more shoulds. We got to stop shoulding on ourselves, but, live with what, and just be honest about it. Get out of your head.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's something that men call to action, right? Like go do it. Go do whatever it is that you feel like the Lord's putting on your heart, and don't delay. Like there's only so much time we have on this earth, and it's limited. And it becomes a smaller and smaller amount in our minds as we get older and older, right? It's like time's relative. It's like you only got so much time, and you don't know when the Lord's going to call you home. So like seize the day. Like go do the thing. That's gonna make your life better. That's gonna make your family's lives better. That's gonna like help you become who God's created you to be. There's not enough time to stay trapped in your head forever.
Yeah.
And I love that encouragement. Tell me about the Freedom Group a little bit and where guys can connect with you. And then we'll wrap things up from there.
Sweet. Yeah, the Freedom Group, we do a few different things. The main offer is we work with guys to get them free from the craving to porn in a year or less, or we work with them for free until they are. It's a 12-month curriculum. Joe is a neuroscience background. My background is in exercise physiology. So we kind of take a whole, how does craving play out in the brain and the body? One thing is unique we do distinguish between temptation and craving. And Joe might have talked about this, where temptation plays out in like the prefrontal cortex. That's like images, memories, thoughts. That's the stuff. Flee from that. But craving is much more of a limbic system, emotional cortex, whole body experience. And how do we fight on that battlefront? Because that's a very different battle to fight than because there's a lot of fight language in with regards to porn. How do we fight it? Fight the new drug kind of thing. Love that stuff. Mm-hmm. But when we fight it, the craving, it actually can increase. And so we teach guys how to welcome craving, how to experience, how to go through it, how to reframe it as an opportunity, and decouple that craving. We say craving is psychological discomfort masquerading as sexual arousal. That was a mouthful. Psychological discomfort.
No, it's good.
Masquerading as sexual arousal. What does that mean? It means, again, it's not about the porn. It's not about the acting out. We got to decouple that so we get in touch and become aware of the discomfort, the deeper, more truer emotional experience that we're having. So sexual integrity, emotional resilience, physical strength is a component of it. We have like an exercise and nutrition component to it, but that's kind of a bonus thing. And so how do we help you guys? You were asking me earlier, was I aware of what I was, what was undergirding the thoughts and emotions that were undergirding my action? Hell no, I wasn't aware. So helping guys become aware, curious, without judgment, so that we can get self-mastery. So JP2, like to what end though, right? Biblically speaking, is to reign as a king. I like what JP2 says. It's self-knowledge leading to self-mastery. To what end? It's to self gift, as you were even alluding to earlier, of giving yourself away. So wanting men to, I was even talking to a guy earlier today. He's like, Nick, I don't struggle with porn, but I struggle with a lot of stuff. And yeah, they're all same tools can be deployed in throughout various, arenas. So, and these are tools that I'm going to be using for the rest of my life, just to grow, is growth, becoming somebody, becoming a king ultimately, so that I can rule as a servant and lay down my life for those in my sphere of influence that need me to show up. So in a nutshell, that's what we do.
Awesome. And the freedomgroup.co, is that the site?
.co, not .m. That one's taken. It's like, man, let me look that up. It's like 18 or 12,000 bucks to get that domain. Somebody snatched it. All these bots are out there. You be careful when you search. Can't be found anyways. Yeah. They're selling it for like 12 grand. So someday we'll buy it.
Yeah. There you go. Maybe you guys can get a benefactor to buy it for you. You'll be good to go. Yeah. Nice. So the freedomgroup.co, if you guys want to connect with Nick and his work there, is your Nick at Freedom Group? Is that the
Nick at the freedomgroup.co? Yep.
.co. So you can shoot him questions over there. Really encourage you to check that out. Any man who's listening to this who might be struggling with porn addiction or sexual addiction and like wanting freedom, wanting to be able to break apart what Nick is saying, the craving and the temptation, and like really dive in deep with that. Go ahead and check out his work.
And I don't know when this is dropping, but dude, you got something coming up too. Yeah. Your people probably already know about it. But when's yours? Your next group?
The group? Yeah. So the group. We just closed out registration on that.
Just kidding, people. You missed it.
Yeah, the bill for it. That's a shorter 8-week program, but I'm hoping to launch that pretty regularly, like maybe on a quarterly basis. So guys will definitely be hearing from me on that. So good. Nick, thanks so much for being here on the podcast. It's great to have you.
Thanks for having me.
If guys are out there looking to get plugged in with more brotherhood, continue to listen, continue to share this with other brothers out there who desperately need other men in their lives. If you're interested in my work as a mentor to help guys become who God's created them to be, head over to craftedformore.com, and we'll catch you guys next week. God bless.